Go?
Yes, but first here's a really lovely and sweet film. We're in the suburbs of Liverpool, where locals are telling us their memories of one of the city's great historical districts.
I love living here. I love the history of the place. But what is sad is that when I look out of my window, I see the decay of the buildings. We're going to lose a massive piece of history if we let this decay carry on. My name is Maria McAvoy and I live in Hartley's village in Aintree in Liverpool. So the village is really part of the story of Hartley's jam because the houses were built along with the factory in the late 1800s. The village also had a lake and a recreation ground. It was all the idea of William Pickles Hartley. He was a staunch Methodist and he believed in looking after his workers. So he built good quality houses, he charged low rents. He believed happy workers made for a happy factory. We have some pictures that show life here in the early 1900s. The factory looked really grand and it was very impressive for a factory building. They had names of the streets that were Spice Street, Sugar Street, Plum Lane, which were all the items he produced here. It's a very clever marketing for him because it got people thinking, oh, I would like to live in Strawberry Row or Plum Lane. That's quite, you know, it's quite nice. In one picture it shows part of the factory that had a pit so that women could stand and not stoop, so they weren't stooping over to fill the jars. It's early health and safety. He, as an employee, really looked after the workforce.
My name's Pat McCann. I started here when I was 15 in 1955. This is Sugar Street. It used to be covered all the way down to the railway sidings. Sugar would come in here. Oranges, strawberries, whatever jam we were making would go further down. When I started, I'd never seen so many women in one place in my life. 90% of the workforce was ladies. Well, it was an education, always taking the mickey out here. But you could give it back sometimes. But one of the big bonuses for me was meeting my lovely wife, Doreen, here. We're happily married for 47 years. We'd have danced together in here. We used to have discos in there in the evening. And in the Victorian times, I think this was the ladies' dining room. I think they used to separate the ladies and the men. The dumb thing then.
My name's June Hill, and I remember as a kid smelling the jam from miles around. There were smells of all the different fruits you could think of, raspberry jam, strawberry jam. In the winter they made the marmalade, which the oranges came from Seville, and that was an unusual smell to smell in the winter time.
Hartley's is still a brand name, but they stopped making jam here in 1962 after the company was taken over. It's really sad because in its day, this works was capable of making 600 tonnes of jam a week, and at one point, Hartley's was using a quarter of the world's Seville oranges.
So over there was the clock that I used to use as a little girl so that I knew what time to go back to school, and I remember that very vividly.
Sadly, during the 1970s, some of the buildings were demolished. We've lost the clock tower and we also lost the 2 warehouses that the jam was stored in. But there's a lot of the old factory left and I want to see it rescued and reused. We've managed to get the surviving factory buildings Grade 2 listed, which might help to save them. It's a long drawn-out process, but I'm feeling positive that we're going to get somewhere. I'm not going to let this go. One day when I look out my window, I'm going to see a new regenerated building. This was a special place. Imagine it back in Victorian times, all the workers' houses here looking out onto the countryside. William Hartley and what he created here really does deserve to be remembered.
Everyone's equal.
We got in